Hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for the invite as well. Thank you so
Yeah, no,
much.
thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, this is the beautiful Nishanthi, and I was overwhelmed with excitement today in having her on. I've been looking forward to doing this because I've been on her show. She invited me a few weeks ago, and something struck a chord within my heart with this special lady. She's very brave, she's very courageous, and I actually found her on Instagram, and she shares such a authentic and sincere story, and so eloquently and with so much courage and a sense of determination to make her impact felt in the world by helping women with their trauma and that sexual trauma. And the way she talks about it is something that will inspire a lot of people. So I've had many people on my show, and this journey has been about opening, well, this great global awakening has been connecting people on the subject of children. And where I've recently been connected a little bit on the geopolitical side, and then speaking to loads of people about various other health related things, I haven't had anyone speak about this subject. And the reason being is because I found it a little bit difficult. So today is very special for myself, and I know all of you are going to really enjoy this and feel empowered after listening to this beautiful lady's story. Nishanthi, thank you so much once again for everything that you do. I'm not going to speak so much on your behalf. I think I've said enough, but I think you deserve that introduction because you really do inspire me with your talks. I listen to all of them on Instagram, and there's just something very, very, very real about you. But you haven't had it easy, and yeah, I'd like you to share with our viewers to what's brought you here and doing what you do in empowering women to heal their sexual traumas.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you. Yeah, the journey, it has been a long one. It has been a steep one and a deep one, so to say. And to start with the beginning, it's like all my life I felt that there was something missing, that there was something wrong, but I couldn't really pinpoint what it is. And every single time that I tried to dive deep or go on that inner journey, I was pointed into the direction of my adoption because I'm adopted. And that made so much sense to me because, I mean, like that brings up stuff, right? You need to think about more things and feel more things. So it made kind of sense. And then when I relocated and moved from the Netherlands to South Africa, I think that was the big change where I really disconnected and there was more distance. I was able to really dive deep. And it was actually through plant medicine that that I could truly start to feel. So in my first iboga journey, a gray box appeared, and that gray box was standing for something which I couldn't grasp in my mind. And it kind of made sense at the same time, but I couldn't really fully open it the first time. And it was standing for sexual abuse. And for 1.5 years after that journey, I couldn't let it go. And I know that when you're not able to let it go, then there's truth in it, right? I mean, right. There's a reason for that. So then only 1.5 years later, I think I did another journey because I knew like, I need to open this box. I need to know, I need to like start to truly live. And then it all started and it was shown to me.
What were you feeling when you say, sorry to interject there, what were you actually feeling when you said that you couldn't let it go? Because that's really very pivotal in your journey, right? So what was happening to you energetically, spiritually, internally, and physically?
Thank you for that question. It's actually a good one because during that 1.5 years after my first iboga experience, I kind of opened it, but I wasn't ready. My soul wasn't ready to fully take on what happened to me because the first journey was mainly about adoption and with my mom's, and then at the end only this popped up. And then that 1.5 years, so much was happening. Like I would go out dancing with my friends, for example, and a man or a guy would come dancing with me, and I would completely panic. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why. And I would start crying, and they would just put me in an Uber, and they were like, you should just go home. And I was like, what's happening to me? Like, this fear was coming to the surface, this fear that I had been carrying on for so many years. It was now coming up, and more and more and more. So I would walk down the streets, and back then I still lived in Cape Town, and we have a lot of people asking for money and food and those type of things, and it would freak me out. I would feel so scared, and normally I would not feel that. So there were times that I would just start running across the streets, and my friends would be looking at me like, what's wrong with her? But it was just this fear was popping up. And even with the person that I was seeing back in at that time, like, he couldn't touch me anymore. If he already would put his hand on my knees, I would completely freeze. If he would take a picture and he would put his arm around me, I would completely freeze. So let alone like more intimate stuff. It was just like I was completely blocking, and in so many ways. And this fear was coming, more and more and more to the surface. And then actually what happened? Yeah.
Were you doing the plant medicine at this time? Like while you were feeling all of these? No. Okay.
No. I just did the one journey, and that was it. And that brought up all this fear actually came then to the surface. And then what happened? I broke my ankle, and it was my left ankle. And it was the second time in my life that I broke my left ankle. And I was like, this is a sign, because the first time when I broke my ankle, it was in 2012. And I was in a complete different place. I was all about work and partying, and so I didn't pay much attention to the signs and the deeper meaning of it. So now it happened again, and I was like, oh, what is the universe telling me? What is my higher self telling me in this way? So I took that time, because obviously I couldn't move around easily, and I was like, okay, there's more towards this. But then I went back to work and everything. And then within like a few weeks, I broke my ankle again after I healed. Again, the left one. The left one is the feminine side. And I was literally put on hold again for a few weeks / months. And then I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. There's something that I do not want to see in my life, and I need to face it, because it's holding me back. And then I decided to do another journey, and that journey was terrible, because I was able to let it in, and I had a lot of visuals what happened to me as a child. And I have been sexually abused since the age of 5. And after that journey, actually the healing only started, because the journeys are not a quick fix. They just bring you to places where you normally can't go or have access to. And then only after that journey, the flashback started. And it was as if this tap of water was opened. That's how I explain it. And you can't close it anymore. So even if I didn't want to go through certain things, it was just coming. Because I decided that I was ready, that I could handle whatever was coming at me back then. And the flashbacks were the most horrible things. I mean, that's also what I see working with women, that they are most afraid of. But it will give you so much freedom at the same time, because when I made my ugly truth the truth, that was the first time that I could truly feel. Because all my life I have been living with 4 thick walls around me, and I didn't even know. And now, like, just knowing this, it changed my life completely 360 degrees in the better.
Wow, that is so profound. Thank you, first of all, for sharing that. And like I said, viewers, look, she does it so powerfully and eloquently. And I really, really appreciate it, because right now that the world needs Nishanthis, right? Everywhere. We need people like you that have experienced this level of trauma, and that have transmuted it into being the powerhouse that they are, in a authentic and significant way that's going to then help others, go into their, divine feminine. And talking about this is not easy. It's an arduous task, and people sweep it under the carpet because it's difficult and it's an uncomfortable conversation. But you've literally, as the saying goes, the crisis became your blessing, in the sense where you've transmuted it so that you're helping. Not only have you're healing continuously, because healing is a progressive journey. There is just not one button that says, right, here you go, press the healing button, I'm automatically healed. You're discovering parts of yourself every single day, which is why I absolutely love how you said that you had this significant moment in time which really sort of showed you that healing was required, and it's having that awareness and consciousness to sort of see that you've been stifled in your life in various areas of your life. It's actually having that going to the darkest night of your soul, some people call it that, and transmuting it to being the powerful being that you are. If we can talk a bit about this, because at the moment, the current subject of childhood trauma, sexual abuse, is a difficult conversation. Was this something that you found difficult just to speak about prior to this, let's call it awakening that you've had in your journey? Was it something that you found very difficult, and how did it affect you more so in relationships with everyone?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. When I started to make this my truth, well, first of all, to go through that process is quite steep. But then talking about it, it's a complete different thing, because there's so much shame and fear and guilt. There's also anger, but the shame and guilt are playing a very big role. And a lot of these things are happening within families. So not only are you afraid to speak up by just sharing your most vulnerable parts, you're also really afraid that you are losing your family, that you will lose your friends, that your world is already falling apart. My world was literally falling apart. But then there are all these other things that you're also afraid of that will unfold. And I started really in my inner circle by sharing with my best friend, my soul sister, and then slowly I started to expand. But that was quite a process, because I had to feel very safe. And then once I started to share, I learned that because I was so transparent and I was so open, that my inner circle, just my friends, started to share. And then I learned that my story isn't unique at all, unfortunately. And I kind of knew that. But for me, opening up, my surroundings were able to open up, and that gave me the strength. That was my kind of key to know, like, okay, but this is a thing. People are afraid to open up, but if I can do it, I can allow people to also feel brave and empowered to also start sharing. And I don't need to share it publicly like I do, but just find one person, and then that will already make a big difference. And slowly, it was a very slow process. I started to open up more and more and more. And then eventually I wrote a blog post about it. And that was the scariest thing I think I ever did back then. And to really go publicly, like, I wanted to share my story, and not to not even for the attention, but just that that my voice mattered, because my voice was never heard as a child. People didn't see me. People didn't truly see me. And I had a good, I was brought up very good in good surroundings, but there was this dark side, and everyone turned away from it. And I just know people knew, conscious or subconsciously, I know, because you don't miss these things. But because we are so afraid to talk about it, we just look the other direction. And I just felt like, no, I'm going to be that person who is raising this voice, because I'm not the only one. And that's what I learned. I'm one out of many. And that blog post, that changed the world to me, because I only received love, and I lost a lot of people in my close surroundings, like family related. People turned against me. People, well, it was too much. People couldn't deal with that. And I also made a decision to not allow many people in my energy field anymore, because that's part of growing as well. But that made a big difference, because then I started to realize that that was also a reflection of me, of the love that I was actually carrying within. And there was not one, like, angry response, except, of course, from the person that it happened with. There was some pushback there, and I was actually threatened with a lawsuit and all these things in order for that I went publicly. That was another flashback that I was like, but how? Like I should be the one doing this, but I don't feel that, because for me the system is not the solution. I think you are in hell already. So I didn't want to take that route since day one.
Good for you.
Yes, but then it was turned against me that he wanted to take that journey. And then I had to make another call, like, okay, because I didn't see that one coming, because I never had that intention. And then it's like, no, they wanted me to pull down the blog posts and everything. And I didn't do that. I was like, I'm not doing that. This is my story, and I'm not changing my story because this is the truth.
If you don't mind sharing, if you're not comfortable, please, you don't need to, but what happened to you is not, it wasn't no walk in the park. No young 5-year-old girl should have ever gone through what you went through. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Nishanthis out there that have experienced this, and it's not an easy conversation, but I say it too with courage, because Nishanthi, you've given me a lot of inspiration. I did warn you about this.
Yes, you did.
A lot of inspiration, because me coming out and speaking in this movement, in this journey, I never intended to start any YouTube channel. Everyone, my beautiful followers and people who have supported me from day one, know that the voice was, ultimately about the children. And I wanted to get to the end and like, okay, so we need to get on the geopolitical side so that this exposure is going to happen, all with the motivational factor of save the children and the abuse that's happened to children at every level. Not for once did I forget what was going on at suburban level, because this is just such an interwoven subject, and it's huge. The magnitude of this is massive. So, it's usually where you've seen trauma yourself, you've witnessed it, or you've experienced some form of trauma that you can identify with other people that are speaking something similar to yourself. And when I came onto this journey, it was literally to scream about the horrors that I had learned. And I knew that there was a big reason for me to do this. And then, 8-9 months later down the line, I'm speaking to all sorts of people, but to actually speak to survivors of the abuse themselves was something that I have been wanting to do for a long time. But it was just being able to feel strong enough without blabbering on a screen like a baby. And I wanted the courage to do that. And when I came across you, this is exactly what happened, Nishanthi. That's her. She's going to be the one that I speak about this with for the first time, in its authenticity, in its rawness, in its realness. So you didn't go through, like I said, the best childhood, and you were betrayed by the people that was meant to protect you. And of course, this then subsequently had an effect on how your life, the psychological makeup of your life was. So, if you don't mind sharing a little bit more about what you experienced and how you transmuted that and how you made sense of it. It's a delicate conversation. Please speak as much as you're capable and comfortable doing so.
Yes. First of all, I really would like to point out to your audience as well that for me and to me, adoption is a form of human trafficking. And just because it looks legal on paper and all these things, it doesn't mean that very bad, dark stuff is happening there. I mean, in the 80s, I'm adopted from Sri Lanka, there were baby farms just for the purpose of giving babies to the people in Europe. Babies were stolen from the hospitals. Women have been paid to be the mother on paper, on the paperwork, but they weren't actually the birth mom. So there's a lot of darkness going around in the whole adoption industry as well. And then at the same time, it happens quite often that people who are adopted are going through similar stories that I've been going through. And I truly believe that on soul level, I chose these lessons. So I chose to be adopted. I chose the lesson of clearing this trauma of sexual abuse in both my lineages, in the Dutch one as well as the Sri Lankan lineage. But in order to transmute it, for me, it was like really facing everything head on and taking that ownership, knowing that I'm the creator, knowing that on soul level, I steered my soul in this world, knowing what I was getting myself into. And then also finding the strength in the feeling that I am not my story, because I am not. It is at the end just a story, and I had to go through all that in order to become the person that I am today. And now I can inspire others and empower others to also start to feel again, and to move from an open heart-centered space, and to start to dance again and sing and enjoy life. But it's really that ownership. For me, it was really that ownership, and a lot of people, they fall back in victimhood, because of course it's really sad and bad what also happened to me. But at the end of the day, if you can look at life that you are the creator, and that your outside world is, at the end of the day, a reflection of your inner. Not to say that when this happens to you as a child, you can't do anything. So there is no blame in that. Like, that's something I had to learn, because I was very angry at myself for a very long time that I didn't do anything. But what can you do as a 5-year-old or even a 10-year-old? What can you do? You can't do anything. And that was very difficult for me, that I was like, but I should have been strong enough. But I had to learn that this was exactly how it had to play out. And I'm okay with that now. But again, it's that ownership. It's that ownership of the shadow sides. The shadow sides are also mine. It's not only love and light. It's the whole, like, embracing all aspects of self. Really, all aspects of self.
Yeah, and that's a very beautiful point there. It's coming, everything that comes to the surface, be it the light and the dark, you're synthesizing those two polarities so that we're at a balanced state. We live in a bipolar state. You know, sometimes we're just constantly love and light, and we're not accepting or embracing the dark or shadow side of ourselves, because there's the stigma that is attached to it, the label, the good, the bad, the shame, the guilt, and exactly. We're not taught how to deal with these emotions. We don't get a manual when we are born. Say, right, this is the way your life is going to be. We don't get the tools to teach us the psychological dysfunction and the makeup of how a lot of children are brought up now, primarily due to the system, which is flawed. And we know this now. It's the concurrent theme that's going on for the last year in this great global awakening. We don't have those tools. However, we have opportunity every day to transmute those to transmute the story and own it.
Yeah, and on that, what to me also is very important, and then I'm not talking about this whole level of ritual abuse, because that's a complete different ballgame. But everything that's happening in the communities, like our neighbors and even family members or friends, the abuser is in a lot of pain. No one will hurt a child. No one will hurt a child like that if they are not in pain themselves. So eventually, for me, I wanted to work to a stage where I could feel compassion for the person that did this.
Taking a question that I had for you a bit later, but yes, please carry on.
Yes, because that for me was the ultimate, and that started actually, and that's the funny and the beautiful thing at the same time. It starts with self-love. Because the moment that I started to expand my self-love and feeling compassion for myself, looking back at my story and seeing where I'm coming from and seeing where I am now, and feeling that compassion for that little girl, the 5-year-old me, but also now the adult version of myself, that I steered myself through all of that, and I'm still here in my power, in my strength, in my light. That compassion, once I started to feel that for myself, I was able to also start to feel it for him. And I was able to start to see that he was acting from pain and from a very hurt place. And I think that's the ultimate that we want to work towards to, because we can only fight the darkness with the light. You can't fight it with the anger and all these other lower frequencies. So it's only love that will eventually fully transmute it. And like I said, I believe these people are already in hell, because they need to live with this every single day, and that's their journey.
And this is precisely the point that literally got me into tears when I heard you speak about this, because this is such an important point, and actually is the question that I had, that I wanted to speak to you about, fundamentally forgiving your abuser. Now you can share with the audience, if you wish to who that was for you, and I said it at such a young age. And then the subject that really blew me away is saying to actually be able to look at your abuser with the lenses of compassion and love. And that is not an easy thing to do, because what's going on right now, if you see like on my social media channels, there is a lot of anger because the awareness has just come up. The subject has literally come up to the surface at the levels of how deep this problem is, not only at the government and institutional levels and the echelons of all these establishments, but we're talking grassroots, suburban levels, and how intertwined this family. There's the like family, friends, people that we're related to within our local communities. This is happening at every layer, every level in society. But to throw out and say, I forgive my abuser, and I can actually internalize from a place of pure love and my higher self to say, I can see the person is operating from a place of hurt, because hurt people hurt people. So that was a very poignant point that you made. On the other hand, the other lens is that this is a satanic way of being. And this is the thing that they do to kind of get the life force energy by stealing the innocence of a child. Yeah, and this is essentially because they felt crap in their lives and just, failures or whatever it is. But it is a demonic energy. So for you to say this, Nishanthi, is just where I salute you, right? Like I honestly do, to say that, yeah, I've forgiven my abuser, and to show. It doesn't mean you have to speak to the person, but to show love,
Like I'm not in contact. Yeah, I'm not in contact with him anymore, and quite a few family members I'm not in contact with anymore. But that doesn't mean that you can't forgive the person. But you're still choosing you at the end of the day. So that's where you're choosing to set your boundaries. Like, I'm not allowing certain energies in any longer. And I think that's very, very important. Also, in terms of what you were referring to, it's about that judgments, what we're seeing playing out in the field right now. There's a lot of judgments, but when we're judging others, we're judging a part of ourselves. So we should be able to look at all perspectives without any judgments, because that's the only way that we can truly observe what's happening, instead of like being sucked into the story, so to say.
Yeah, and that's the point. We live and we sometimes are governed by our stories. And it took me a very long time to realize that. I said this on your show. That it's the story, it's the narrative that we tell ourselves. I'll give you an example, Doug. I haven't been feeling great, just feeling a little bit foggy in the mind, and people know that I haven't done any shows for a long time as a result of that, because I don't want to live in that story. I don't want to keep talking about it. However, I know that I need to do what I need to do to start feeling well, and it's the biggest step is always in the mind for me, and making that decision and releasing what no longer serves you. So this brings me back to the point of, how is your story serving you? Is it serving you for the good, or is it serving you for the bad? It will always be a memory. It will always be a memory in your life. However, it's the transmutation process of it that you elevate yourself to a high state of consciousness by making that crisis, that abuse, into serving you as a blessing. And that's exactly what you're doing. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about a bit more about what goes on within the families, and why it is a difficult conversation to have, but why it's so necessary now, especially now in these coming years, because we're going to hear more and more and more about it. So it's this purging, is this intensity and this purging that humanity is going to be going through over the next 10 years. I'm not saying it's just a quick fix, because there's still that constriction, there's still that resistance. Even now, when we speak about it, like if we look at what's going on at the moment, the disparity between our friends, family, co-workers, or where we are on every level in this last year, you know, it's just here. And it has to come and be raised. Consciousness has to be raised for us to have a sense of unity and a unity consciousness. But let's talk about what goes on at the suburban levels and within a friend's family. It's hidden. It's hidden so much. If it's been hidden in the governments and in all these establishments, the religious fraternities, the music industry, the entertainment industry, it happens in families. And this is why people become scared, because it's going to be showing up a member of a family or a family friend. And this is what we're faced with. And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, this is the most difficult thing, to really stand up for yourself, because that's the other thing. Often there is, like for my story at least, there was also a lot of love. So I always call it the biggest fuck up. Sorry for the language, but that's the fuck up, because I truly loved the man as well in his role that he was playing in my life. And then there was this dark side, and that's the twists. So then you have all these good memories, and there's also stories where there are not as many good memories, of course, but I also had good memories. And then you have this now unfolding, and that's so difficult. And then you now need to step up and share this, because I'm choosing me now. I'm gonna choose my voice and follow my heart, and knowing that you maybe get a lot of resistance, knowing that people will not believe you. That's the biggest fear, that people will not believe you, because you kind of know that people will turn against you, especially because it's family related, especially our family friends. It's always in your close surroundings. Most of the times it's in your close surroundings. That was the most difficult thing. And I was really, really scared for that. And I was really afraid of sharing that story. And the first time that I shared my story with two of my family members, it was because I'm in South Africa and they were in Holland, obviously. It was via Skype or via Zoom. And for the first, it felt like an hour, I was not able to, with anyone that I shared my story with, I was not able to look people in the eyes because of the shame and because of the guilt. So I would just sit like this and I just cried. And then they would kind of calm me down, and then slowly I was able to start talking. And I was lucky that the people family-wise that I shared it with first, they were like only supportive, but there was still this hesitance of like, but is that really possible? And then they also then need to go through their process. That's not mine anymore. I had to learn that too, because everyone then only starts, like I was already busy with that and in that healing journey for a bit longer before I started to share it with family, because that's the biggest step. And then you get all these questions, people will not believe you. And then I had to learn that at the beginning, I was looking for validation externally. So I was actually looking, and a lot of people do this, you are looking for other people to confirm the story. But no one will confirm the story, because you know, and you need to feel that within, that is the truth. And that's the most difficult part, because at first you want other people, because you're like, but how have you missed this? How is this possible? Why did no one do anything? Because now it's like, yeah, there were so many strange things happening, and the relationship was never really healthy. So now people do realize, they do. So I was like, but everyone knew back then too, you know? And that's the thing, we look away. Even if you know it, even if family, friends know it, it's too scary to start talking about. It's too scary to lose certain things, or maybe you're wrong. But I really urge everyone, if you have a gut feeling that it's happening somewhere, start that conversation, how uncomfortable it might be, because you will save someone else not going through, like keep on going through it. And the other thing is, when it's happening with one person, I almost guarantee you that there's more people. It's never just one person.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first started to talk about this, and you first were ready to actually confront this abuse, and talk about it with anyone? Like, did nobody know? And until what age?
So like I said, I only was able to open this whole story. Sorry, I was after my first plant medicine journey, and that was only about 4 years ago. So I was 32. I blocked this away for 32 years, and that was something else I was very angry about towards myself. How can you block this away? How on earth? And now I learned that
not one person knew.
No.
Up until 32.
Yes. Yeah. And now I know that a lot of people are actually doing this, because we it's very common when you experience something traumatic to actually like block it. I've seen it now a lot, and especially now that we are raising the frequency on Earth, things are coming up for people even without plant medicine. It just comes up, and they didn't know for many years. So yeah, that was very difficult, because like all my life, like I said, everything was pointed into the direction of the adoption. And I always knew there was something more. I always knew, because I could never fully commit in relationships. And I was always very fearful for certain things and stuff like that. But I never really thought on a deeper level what that could be. And then once I knew this, life made sense. So many things clicked that I didn't understand. I never understood them. And now it all made sense. It's like, wow. Yeah.
And that trauma actually acts as the tool for you to make sense. We choose this soul, we choose this soul covenant. We have chosen this journey. And that's essentially the fundamental, most important point for me, was when I had my true awakening journey, was taking full responsibility of every single thing that had happened in my own particular journey, to transmute that into being where I am today. And was that acceptance, and to truly own my story, no matter how much shame, how much guilt, how much lack of self-worth, how much unworthiness that I felt over various stages in my life, because I didn't have the tools or the surroundings, the energy to actually understand it. However, the epiphany moment happened internally. There was a catalyst, and there always is a catalyst, like you said, with your breaking your ankle. And this is so important for people watching this as well, to realize that, you know, there is no set template of how this happens for us. But the most important message for this video for me is that you're not alone. You're not alone. And you know, collectively, this is all coming out. It's like this, it's horrible way to sort of metaphorically explain this, but it's like a horrible boil, you know, that's just coming up to be popped, and just all the crap coming out. And that's what's going on in humanity, the purging of so many hidden things coming to the surface to be transmuted.
Yes, and that's happening in on big scale in governments, but also within families. And that's basically what happened within my family as well. And the other thing, which is very interesting, that some of my close friends, for example, they already knew for years, because they could pick up certain behavior. So when I shared my story with some people, they were like, yeah, we kind of knew, but yeah, this is for you to discover. So it was like my whole being, there was this damaged inner child that I never saw, obviously, but other people had picked up on it already, like years ago. They knew. And that's how powerful energy obviously is, but only when you are ready. And that's the thing that I also really feel is important. Only when you are ready, your soul is ready, then it will only arise and being brought up to the surface. So there is really nothing to be afraid of. We think that with healing sexual trauma, that it's gonna be so difficult that you will not survive, or that it's going to be a journey for years and years and years. But it's not like that. Everyone can do this, and you will have good days and you will have bad days. But yeah, it's absolutely, it will give you so much freedom. That's it. It will give you so much freedom, and people are so afraid to actually face this. But that's only because they do not believe that it's going to be better on the other side, because they do not know what it is to be on the other side, what it is, who they are without this story. That's it. They're afraid for that.
And again, really beautifully put. It's actually being able to assess and see how this trauma shows up in its disguise in various episodes of your life. So be it through your relationships, both interpersonal and personal and intimate relationships with your family, with your close friends, and in the work that you do, because it's all energy, and the way your energy is kind of like showing up in wanting to do things in life is very, very apparent of trauma and hidden and suppressed emotions. And this is where a lot of illnesses, come from, the dis-ease within your energetic and emotional field, which is why I was saying to you earlier on that, I've been fighting my own personal healing journey, and I've realized it. So at the moment, it's at the transmuting stage as well, right? Where I recognize where it stems from, and I'm loving it. I'm giving it healing. I'm trying to just be its friend and really sort of like, so that it just, because I realize it's the spiritual, that there's a spiritual energy behind this as well, but it's taking that ownership, but congruent to your higher self, congruent in honesty, congruent in absolute authenticity with self. So when you look in the mirror, you have got no one else but yourself and yourself there, and you're having honest conversations with yourself. So the trauma is transmuted in various forms, and it shows then if it's not healed, and if it's not dealt with and it's suppressed, it will show in the form of these relationships and dysfunctional relationships, and what you attract, because manifestation ultimately is down to yourself. We can read loads and loads and loads and loads of books about this, but if the subconscious mind is programmed in a place of trauma, and no matter how many things we read at a 3D, and the subconscious mind is not programmed to help us maneuver in life effectively, we will constantly be attracting the same patterns. We haven't dealt with it like at surface level. This was one of the biggest things I had learned. So in the lead up to where we were in 2020, it was such an automatic, like I got it all, like I got it so quickly, and that I was able to absolve all the kind of fears that I had of public speaking and starting my channel. I'm quite a private person. I didn't want to, just talk about all of this. And again, look what was happening there. The fear started coming. So there was healing in this journey that I realized was in store for me too. Healing when I talk to people like yourself, and then therefore helping others. Maybe it will be a nugget of wisdom. It will be a catalyst for them. And it keeps you, but you're not reliant on anything outside other than what goes on inside. So when you're having a bad day, for example, actually, let's talk about what happens to you, because this is a roller coaster. You're 4 years in, Nishanthi, and the realistic thing that you said there is you will go through your ups and downs throughout. What's watching this? How to deal with that?
That for me really depends in the moment, but it's so important to take that time. And I was fortunate enough that I was able to do that along my journey, and to give yourself that self-love and self-care, and to just stay in bed for a day if you really need to. But at the same time, connection is so important. And for me, nature became my biggest medicine. Connecting with nature, with the trees, with the plants, with the forest, with the mountains, but that became such a big part of my healing journey, because I could ground myself there. I could allow myself there to feel sad, and I also had to learn that it's okay to have these bad days, and to just cry, or to not knowing why you feel so sad, because we don't always know exactly, and we will get the answers later, and that's all okay. So it's about that self-care and self-love, and food played a very big role for me. I could either overeat or I could not eat at all, and I was also learning myself to be okay with that you have days that you just are eating chocolates and chips and that stuff. And that you have days that everything is aligned again, and you're just going for the healthy lifestyle. I mean, in general, that's my lifestyle, but to just listen to that feeling within and being okay with everything. Again, embracing all these aspects of self. That's so important, to keep on listening to that voice, what it's telling you, and to not walk away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've done is, you know, you've transmuted this not only in terms of the plant-based medicine that you were involved in, but also to empower women and coach women to heal from their sexual traumas. And you actually do this now as your, I don't want to say profession because that sounds too cabal, but as what you do to help others heal just from your own story and understanding that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I truly believe that your own stories and experiences, that's what you have to give in this world. That's your purpose. That's what no one else can teach it better than you, because you do understand these people better than someone who reads it just from the books. And that's what I've been learning working with other beautiful women. It's that understanding, because you know each other already, because you know the feeling, you can relate on such a deep level. So I do this through quantum breakthrough sessions. So there's a lot of inner child work, there's a lot of body work, and the combination of the two. But also sometimes by channeling information. And I created these beautiful packages where it actually works out that you dive deep, and then also have the time and space during that month to fully embrace it, so that it's doable for you to really accept what is and acknowledge it, but then absolutely let go of it. And it's a process. We can't shift this overnight. Just with one session, you're not going to shift this trauma. And that's the other thing. Like, I can inspire, I can empower, I can hold space, I can even work like an alchemist, but you are the healer. You are your own healer. I can't heal you. You need to do the work. And what I've been learning with these packages, that's brilliant, because that's giving people the space as well, the time and the space, that it doesn't need to happen overnight, and that it is a process. And with the smaller steps, it's easier to go through it. And then I use, I believe in new technologies, especially in the world that we are living in. So frequency healing is also a big thing for me that I absolutely love. I believe frequency healing is the future. Like I said, we can heal ourselves. So I also implement that and work with that.
So how does that work, the frequency healing? Is there any sort of machines that you work with? I assume that this is for people that come to see you remotely, right? Or
yes, no, I
online?
Yeah, I can do that online indeed. So it's a small device, yeah, it works. I can send remote healing to them, so I can basically do a scan, either chakra or medicine of a health scan, and then I can send them the healing even if they are overseas or etc. Because there's no distance, right? That's the same that the energy work that I do with people. There's no distance, so you can do that from anywhere in the world. And if people are interested in it, I'm actually hosting a webinar on this device next week. So if they would like to learn more about this.
Yeah, well, I was actually thinking of getting us to do it live. That's the original thing that I had planned for today. Okay. But I was having internet issues and I didn't announce it. See, a lot of the times when I do these, it's just like I get channeled information and I feel very guided. And as you know, this morning I was just like overwhelmed, overflowing with so much love. And it was a great feeling because, you know, in all honesty, it has been a very testing 2 weeks for humanity as whole and as a whole, because I speak to a lot of people write into me, Nishanthi, and you know, share what they're going through, and I think hello she can get involved yeah, write into me and have been experiencing these ascension, what we know as ascension symptoms, and they are heavy. Like, you know, the whole energy of Mother Gaia is shifting, and these ascension symptoms are just heavy. And you know, I literally felt floored, but it's just great feeling elevated again. You know, I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, I feel normal, and we're getting close. We're approaching some, you know, real strong astrological dates as well. So when we realize we're all connected, we're connected with everything, and we can really truly feel and embrace it, it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I would like to, I'm going to put all the Nishanthi's details and everything in the link below. So if you want to find out more about her and her journey, about what she does, how she helps women and empowers them, and their course, all the information will be below. I'll be inviting her to some other amazing chats that I have lined up as well. But on a final note, Nishanthi, I just think this was a beautiful conversation, and I know this is going to be received really well because it's raw, it's authentic, and it is sincere. And I think that, you know, what you offer for women and men, right? You don't want to forget men, because this is for both, right? It's for abuse, just abuse as a whole, from whether it's male, female, from when you were a child, and in what form. You know, it's important to be able to have the strength and the courage to, you know, face it, to really face it, because blocking our pain and our traumas is only going to stifle us and hinder our growth in life. And I know that myself, you know, and I had to transmute it to actually move. And that's exactly what you've done to be the powerful woman that you are now. So on a final note, my watching, is there anything that you would like to just add for our viewers?
Well, yes. Well, I think that the most important thing for me is for men and women to know that you hold all the power, that you can do it, that you are really powerful beyond your own imagination, and that the fear is the illusion in this case. And once you start to release that and break through all these layers, you will reconnect with that beautiful heart, and you will discover that you are the magic, and that you are the goddess or the gods, and that there is no separation of each other. And I think that people really, that it's important to start to feel that the real power, that we are infinite beings of light, and let go and silence all the noise around us, because that's what's creating the fear. That's the illusion. And I think right now more than ever, it's important to do that dive deep. Even though you're still afraid, now is the time. There's no time anymore to look the other direction. And we have been able to do that for a very long time. But because people like Alpa and myself and many more are raising the frequency, you can't look away anymore, because it will keep popping up to the surface. So that the time now.
In the form of illnesses, in the form of failed relations, in the form of so many things that go wrong. These are things that we don't check in with self. So it's really, really important. Nishanthi, thank you so much today for your bravery and your courage. I keep saying that, but I want to emphasize that. And women like you are my heroes. And I mean that. I mean that sincerely from my heart and soul. I feel honored and privileged that, you know, we're speaking today, and that, you know, if you want to hear my chat with Nishanthi, please go on her channel. I'm going to put all her details in the box below. Please like, share, and yeah, thank you so much, Nishanthi. I really, really am humbled. Have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you so much.